Chapter 14, Reverse Engineering of the Causal. After listening to the narration this far, King Varenya asked Ganaraja Prabhu in a matter-of-fact way, "Now, please narrate to me as per the sequence of achievement of the glory and form of reverse ascent, all the play of power therein, and the knowledge for practice and tools of practice." The instruction given by Sri Gajanan to King Varenya was, after ending the play of ignorance, knowledge of Swananda dawns through self-knowing, due to the glory of union, the actualization of the form of Purna Yoga, which is a bestower of peace, is my Swananda Yoga. He then goes on to explain the same thing serially, separating the experiences of each of the padas, reiterating that the play of the three padas is due to the power of his decision and desire alone. The next three slokas are dedicated to this. He says in Shloka 23, Ahameva Mahashakti, Ahameva Aryama Priya, Ahameva Mahavishnu, Ahameva Sadashiva. It was expressed in the early shloka by way of sutras that Shiva and others, the four authorities, dissolve at the place of the one who is the form of self-knowing, namely Ganesha himself. To explain this sequentially in greater detail, the next three shlokas have been dedicated for this purpose. So here he says, I, Swananda Ganesh, follow my own intentions and resolutions while extending support to the different sattansh or the centers of power through different disguises by which I perform the work of creation, growth and dissolution. How do I do that? Through the garb of Brahmadeva, I do creative work. By disguising as Vishnu, I nourish the world. And through the form of Shiva, I destroy the world. So also through Shakti and Surya, I do the work of enchantment and the work of illuminating the work of karma, which is subject to the framework of time, is also done by me. Even though these two aspects were not emphasized in the original shloka, still the three types of work and the absence of the dual work does not get accomplished without the support of the other two. Therefore, it becomes essential to absorb them. I do all these five types of work by being the essence of their powers and illuminating their work, as all these five deities are parts of me, and it is under my orders that all these powers keep doing their work. It is me as a husband of Siddhi and Buddhi who gives them the inspiration, the necessary capabilities and powers for accomplishment of the work related to creation, etc. It is I who get all their work done through them. As such, it is me who is the absolute independent source of power, the Supreme Being. If at the beginning of their work they worship me, gain blessings from me, and secure the necessary capabilities and skills for the execution of their work, then once again they are required to worship me for the fulfillment of their individual work. Otherwise, they face difficulties at each step, and then they get confounded. At times, they may also be defiled from their prosperity. In brief, I am the one who is to be worshipped by all, and I am the embodiment of all prosperity, which is to be worshipped first before all. Even the Vedas praise me as Jeshta Rajam Havamahe. This means that there is no one greater than me. Besides, the Atharvashish also speaks of Pratamat Patayen, which is quite well known. As source of power for the creation of the whole world, namely the five tutelary deities, Shiva, etc., being the first manifestation, and their master being Ganesh, he as a first master becomes the actual original cause of creation of this world. Role of the power centers. Briefly, the role of Shiva and other powers as the cause of this creation being restricted, and because of their being born as part of the absolute eternal Ganesha, they owe their source to him. Shri Gajanana says, "It is only when you have given up all other things that are dear to you, and you have this yearning love for me. That is why you are extremely dear to me. Therefore, you will become fully conscious of me, and with the enlightenment of your consciousness, you will attain all psychic powers as well." The shloka, which contains the narration of creation and dissolution of causal matter in a state of supraconscious meditative union, states that with the accomplishment of this, and after attaining the Bodha Brahma, which is described as self-ascent, one realizes the glory of Ganesha. That is, he appears to be an embodiment with attributes. If he is the form of Asipada, where Tatpada and Tvampada end, then there appears to be a differing opinion. Where it ends in the form of re-ascent, the incorporeal is experienced as being in supraconscious. There the glory of Shiva and others appears to be without attributes. Then how is it to be that of Ganesha? This is what is being clarified here. Listen to it carefully. With the rising of the thought of Aham Brahmasmi, the self-knowing Swananda accepted Maya arising within him. The moment this happened, Swanandesh Ganesh became the first blamed. That being the primordial cause, a part of me as Swanandapada became manifested as 5 types. The moment the same 5 types in the Vidyapada accepted Maya without attributes, the 5-fold causal matter and her soul, the conscious spirit, manifested with Avidyapada, and the experience of its play became clearly illuminated. That itself multiplied many-fold to form an infinite variety. The source was only one, namely the form of superconscious, where causal matter was in a dissolved state. But with the splitting of the padas into Tatpada and Tvampada, the enchanted Asipada came to be known as self-ascent. The enlightening Brahma, which is capable of descent due to the support of causal matter, became the first to be blamed. That is why the exceptional Brahma, who gives the experience of the absence of Tad, is also known as a conscious or the incorporeal Brahma, which is fit to be spoken of as reverse ascent. Therefore, we need to understand that the experience is only that of absence of play. In that state, there is only peace. So, that state is understood as being absolute Brahma. When we mention Shanti or peace of all differing opinions, then even when there is a suspicion of differing opinion, that itself is understood as the experience of being the incorporeal supraconscious. Here the explanation of the difference between the duality of Swata Uttan and Parata Uttan is that up to and inclusive of differing opinions, there will be the tendency for play which happens spontaneously. There is no one else who is required to inspire it. Therefore, it is known as Swata Uttan or self-ascent. As long as the endowment of differing opinion remains, till then there is a possibility of the absence and necessity of differing opinions to take place. Since only the absolute divine bliss is truth, the re-ascent is the absence or state beyond the existence of differing opinions. Play of the causal matter unconscious spirit. There is evidence of this in the 5th chapter of the 9th part of Srimad Mudgal Puran. Here the conversation between Daksha and Mudgalacharya is referred. The awareness of padas and objects through which the causal matter and conscious spirit play about takes place constantly. Therefore, that state of awareness or consciousness is called self-ascent, because of which there is also the possibility for the absence of it. This is the seed of Sankhya Brahma, which is in the nature of re-ascent. For example, there is a possibility of falsehood where there is a situation for its absence. Otherwise, what will we call the truth? If there is no knowledge of falsehood, then that which is the truth is the truth. But how is it known to be the truth? Truth is always truth. In the same way, that which is Brahma is really Brahma. Where such firmness in the joy of oneself happens, that is re-ascent, because it gives birth to self-ascent. When that happens out of one's own will, then that which is beyond it or the absence of it is re-ascent. There is no truth in the absence of identification. It only gives rise to differing opinions. So what is necessary to understand is the intellect which is embedded in the truth. It is always in the joy of the divine and is devoid of any resolution. When the resolution of self-joy arises, therein the bestower of enchantment, which is contrary in nature, is the form of Siddhi. This is the role of Siddhi and Buddhi in Vidyapada. When Siddhi, who is the cause of enchantments, brings the vision of self-joy to Buddhi, who is absolute joy without any differences, she does not give up her non-differential nature. Self-joy remains faithful. This means that the fourfold nature of the non-differential form, namely Asat, Sat, Sama and Sahaja, are experienced differently. When they get depleted, only the fifth one remains as a complete single form. That experience of self-joy is not given up. It cannot be cast away. If that happens, then Buddhi will become beyond distraction. It is like the influence of Siddhi is pushed upon the Buddhi. Siddhi skills are transferring her enchantment to Mahabuddhi by showing her the different kinds of joys that are attained through her fourfold powers. However, that does not work out at all. In an attempt to enchant Buddhi, the enchantress Siddhi in such a plight herself becomes subject to Buddhi and gets absorbed into the powers of Parabrahma. Parata Uttan or reascent is the form of incorporeal Brahma's supra-conscious yogic form. He supports it with examples. Someone is identified as a father, only then he is blessed with a son. If there is no son, then he is the father of. What it means is that without the existence of a son, fatherhood is not possible. In the same way, it is because of the happening of descent that there is reascent. But with the support of Parata Uttan, the all-knowing Mahabuddhi takes Siddhi under her control, and with a firm faith in Swaswanam, she pierces through the four types of differences, making for the glory of reascent. Incorporeal meditative union. Yoga Shastras also mention incorporeal supraconscious as an experience of being in meditative union. He elucidates the serial order of attaining the experience of being in the incorporeal supraconscious meditative union, that is, the ending process of the fourfold types of power and their merging to form the fifth through practice, and how it is to be practiced. The end of all creation with name and form takes place through dissolution into the supraconscious form through meditative union. As per its nature, Asat, which is under the control of Shakti Brahma, gets enchanted, which is the essence of Asipada. It has to attain the state of absence of all enchantments. Then alone can it attain the incorporeal state of Brahma. For that, one has to contemplate in a state of meditative union that the play of causal matter and conscious spirit which takes place is due to the power of Shakta Brahma, who is from me alone. It is due to me that it exists, and finally it is in me that it ultimately merges. All these three types of play being my own activity, it is I who am the first blamed. Giving her up, I should become disenchanted, because I, the Supreme Divine, is established in the joy of my own self. The whole blame rests upon me alone, because making me enchanted or disenchanted is not in anybody else's hands. I do everything to me out of my own desire.